Hello YouTube! We're on the Real Programming channel. I'm its host, my name is Andrei. I greet you, welcome you. This is our 19th lesson. We are talking about HTML and JavaScript. We will talk about knowing the scope of your local and global variables topic. Okay, where you define your variables determines their scope. That is where they are definite and where they aren't, where they're invisible to your code and where they aren't. Let's look at an example of both locally and globally scoped variables. Remember, the variables you define outside a function are globally scoped and the function variables are locally scoped. These four variables are globally scoped. That means they are defined and visible in all the code below. And remember, please don't forget, you will find all the code materials of this lesson under this video in the description link to Google Drive. Note that if you link to additional scripts in your page, they will see these global variables too. The level variable here is local and is visible only to the code within the getAvatar function. That means only this function can access the level variable. And let's not forget the points parameter, which also has local scope in the getAvatar function. Note the getAvatar makes use of the point per level global variable too. In update points, we have a local variable I is visible to all of the code in update points. Bonus and new points are also local to update points, while user points is global. And here is in our code, we can use only the global variables. We have no access to any variables inside the function because they are not visible in the global scope. The short lives of variables. When you are variables, you work hard and life can be short. That is, unless you're global variables. But even with global, life has its limits. But what determines the life of a variable? Think about it like this. Global live as long as the page. A global variable begins life when its JavaScript is loaded into the page, but your global variable's life ends when the page goes away. Even if you reload some page, all your global variables are destroyed and then recreated in the newly loaded page. Local variables typically disappear when your function ends. Local variables are created when your function is first called and live until the function returns. With a value or not, that is, you can take the values of your local variables and return them from the function before the variables meet their digital maker. We say typically because there are some advanced ways to retain locals a little longer, but we are not going to worry about them now. So, there really is no escape from the page, is there? If you are a local variable, your life comes and goes quickly, and if you're lucky enough to be a global, you're good as long as that browser doesn't reload the page. But there just has to be a way to escape the page. We can find a way, can't we? Join us in the web storage chapter where we'll help our data escape the dreaded page refresh. What happens I name a local variable the same thing as an existing global variable. You shadow your global. Here is what that means. Say you have a global variable's bin counter and you then declare a function like this. Let's look on Sublime Text. So, while bin counter 10, we've got a global and the local variables. Okay? And when you do this, any references to be encountered within the function refer to the local variable and not the global. So we say the global variable is in the shadow of the local variables. In other words, we can't see it because the local version is in our way. Note that the local and global variables have no effect on each other. If you change one, it has no effect on the other. They are independent variables. They are not dumb questions. Keeping track of the scope of all these locals and globals is confusing, so why not just stick to globals? That's what I've always done. If you're writing code that is complex or that needs to be maintained over a long period of time, then you really have to watch how you manage your variables. When you overzealous is in creating global variables, it becomes difficult to track where your variables are being used and where you are making changes to your variables values, and that can lead to buggy code. All this becomes even more important when you writing code with coworkers or you using third-party libraries. Although if those libraries are written well, they should be structured to avoid these issues. So use globals where it makes sense, but use them in moderation and whenever possible make your variables local. As you get more experience with JavaScript, you can investigate additional techniques to structure code so that is more maintainable. I have global variables in my page, but I'm loading in other JavaScript files as well. Those files have separate sets of global variables. There is only one global scope, so every file you lead sees the same set of variables and creates global and the same spaces. That's why if it is so important you be careful with your use of variables to avoid clashes and reduce to or eliminate global variables when you can. I've seen code where people don't use the var keyword when assigning a value in your variable name. How does it work? Yes, that can be done. When you assign a value to a variable name that hasn't been previously declared, it is treated as a new global variable. So be careful if you don't within a function you are creating a global variable. Note that we don't recommend this coding practice. Not only it is a potential confusion when reading code, some people think this behavior may change someday in the JavaScript implementations, which would probably break your code. Do I need to define a function before I use it, or can it appear anywhere in my script? Function declarations can appear anywhere. In your script, you can declare a function below where you use it if you want. This works because when you first loaded your page, the browser parses all the script in the page or in the external file and sees the function declaration before it starts executing the code. You can also put your global variable declaration anywhere in your script, although we recommend to declare all your global variables at the top of your files so they're easy to locate. One thing to keep in mind when using more than one external JavaScript file is that if you have two functions in different files named the same thing, the function that the browser sees last will be the one that is used. Everyone seems to complain about the overuse of global variables in JavaScript. Why is this? Was the language badly designed, or do people not know what they're doing or what? And what do we do about it? Globals are often overused in JavaScript. Some of this is because the language makes it easier to just jump in and start coding. And that's a good thing because JavaScript doesn't enforce a lot of structure or overheat on you. The downside is when people write serious code this way, and it has to be changed and maintained over the long term, and that pretty much describes all web pages. All that said, JavaScript is a powerful language and includes features like objects that you can use to organize your code in a modular way. Many books have been written on that topic alone, and we're going to give you just a taste of objects and on the second half of this chapter, which is only a few pages away. And did we mention functions are also values? We will talk about this in the next lesson, and here is our 19th lesson about JavaScript and HTML is over. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel, please. Put like, share with friends, and don't comment. Don't forget, meditate, share with friends. You of course, do exercise more often, read more books on the topics, drink more water for the brain. That's all. Thank you. Bye.